Hi, Amanda. So, at what approximately when did you start using social media?
Ooh, that's a good question. And it's going to, y'all already know how old I am, but it's going to definitely show you how old I am because I had a MySpace way back when, had a MySpace for I don't even remember how long. And then when Facebook opened up, because when Facebook first started, it was just for college students. But when it opened up to everybody, I got a Facebook. So I have had Facebook pretty much since it started. Yeah. How about you?
I did have a MySpace, and I kind of miss that. We got to decorate it. I liked that. That was fun. So, when did your kids start using Facebook, Instagram?
Yeah. Um, I'm trying to remember now. I believe
Uh-huh.
originally, and I don't even know if it's still this way, but there used to be a rule on Facebook that you couldn't get an account unless you were a certain age, which I cannot remember. I think it was 13. And so I believe that all of my kids, pretty much when they were 13, got a Facebook. Now, it's interesting over these years that most of my kids now have kind of gone away from social media. They are not super into social media at all anymore. So it's kind of interesting the journey that they've been on in their generation, especially, my youngest has grown up. He's never known a world without social
Right,
media, which
right.
is super interesting.
And I think it was real big for me when I didn't live as close as I do now with my family because it was awesome for us to share pictures and that kind of stuff. But it is a little bit different now. And my daughter-in-law, simply because of social media, switched to a flip phone
Yeah.
just to get rid of the temptation to even go out there. So today we are going to talk a little bit about social media and etiquette when we have a real world readiness episode today. And several weeks ago, we talked about telephone etiquette. And so this is just the next thing that makes sense to talk about. And we are also going to spend a chunk of time talking about it's the end of the school year and just all things end of the school year, graduation, transcripts, curriculums. So we're going to talk about that today. But before we get started there, I want to emphasize that Thrive is coming up here at the end of May in just a few weeks, and pre-registration ends next week on May 14th. So if you want to get the best price available right now, you need to go out and pre-register on nche.com and go to the events section and register for Thrive before the 14th.
Absolutely. And we've said it before. If you miss out, you absolutely can register on site all 3 days of the conference. You absolutely can. But we are trying to save you money. We want you to get the best deal possible. So go ahead. Don't put it off.
And so this year we have a couple of sponsors for Thrive. And so tell us about that, Amanda.
Yes. So exciting this year that we have several sponsors. Our first sponsor that we're going to talk about is Learning RX. They sponsored our sensory room, which is a new thing we have this year to help and support our families, maybe that have kids with different needs, that they might could benefit from a place to just calmly reset if they're having a time, which sometimes that happens. And we really appreciate Learning RX. They are partnering with us all year long to provide resources, webinars, all kinds of things for families. So we really appreciate Learning RX and their sponsorship. I want to share this quick story from a mom in Virginia.
She had two daughters, both struggling in different ways. And when her older daughter had finished a full brain training program, what stood out wasn't just the better reading, the spelling, or the math. Those had improved too, but the emotional shift. Her frustration dropped. She stopped dreading schoolwork, and for the first time, she could work independently for longer stretches without melting down.
Then her younger daughter started training. And within just a short time, this mom saw improvements in reading, attention, and memory. But my favorite part, she shared that her daughter was suddenly reading chapter books on her own with no prompting or nagging.
They don't just teach context, they strengthen the underlying cognitive skills like attention, working memory, and processing speed that make learning feel easier and more rewarding in the first place.
Every client is different, and your child may or may not achieve the same results as this family. But if you're homeschooling a child who is bright but distracted, capable but frustrated, or exhausted by daily learning battles, Learning RX might be worth exploring. Their research backed programs help the brain get stronger, so learning doesn't feel like such a fight anymore for kids or parents. Head to learningrx.com/homeschool to get special discounted pricing on the cognitive skills assessment and sign up to get additional information and free resources from the Learning RX Homeschool Partnerships team. So we have those links in the show notes. Thank you, Learning RX.
Awesome. Okay, so here we are. It is really close to the end of the school year for most people. Like we've said before, I homeschool year round, but we kind of switch things up, do some of the, do different classes in the summer, focus on more group activities. So let's just kind of go over some of the things that people are dealing with right now. First off, some of us already have, but if you haven't already, testing.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So we've talked a lot about testing. I just did a few episodes ago, talked about testing on my homeschool help segment. But as you know, part of our law, we have to administer a nationally normed standardized test once per calendar year. So if you haven't done that, definitely plan it, schedule it, do it. It doesn't have to be a stressful thing, but for us, it always really did kind of mark the end of our school year. That was just a good kind of transition for us. So, yeah, check that out.
It's really great information out there. And so then the other thing is graduation. And I think a lot of people get caught up in this, what has to happen, like there's all these rules and there's just not a lot of rules that have to technically you just don't even have to have a graduation. But who wouldn't want to do something special for your kid? So what are some of the options that people could look at?
Yeah, absolutely. So, as we've talked about so many times, when you homeschool in North Carolina, you are your own little tiny private school. And there are no legal graduation requirements. The graduation requirements are what you set. So, when you say that your student has graduated, they have graduated. But there are so many options. Whether you want to, some families, it's really kind of just low key. Hey, great, we've graduated. Let's go do a picnic in the park or whatever it is. Some families do their own private ceremony at their house or wherever they want to do it. And that I've been to some of those. They're beautiful and meaningful. There are quite a lot of local homeschool groups or churches that do graduation ceremonies where their graduates can walk and have that experience. And then, of course, we have our graduation ceremony at Thrive, which is always a highlight of the year. And I would encourage all of you out there, if you have a graduate coming up, think about what you would like graduation to look like in your homeschool and kind of plan ahead because I've seen it so many times that it kind of sneaks up on some
Sometimes
families
that
sometimes.
requirement for a transcript sneaks up on you. People wait and then they found out they have to have one to get into college or community college. And so tell us a little bit about transcript.
Oh man, yes, this happens all the time. And I I was guilty of this with my first high school student that, I had some experienced homeschool moms say to me, don't put it off. Keep up with the records. Make sure you have it written down because you won't remember. And I was so like, oh, I'll remember. I did not remember. And I ended up, I think, with my oldest daughter when she was a junior, I all of a sudden was like, oh no, I need to make her transcript. Huh. So don't be like me. That's my first piece of advice. When your student is in high school, just keep track. Even if when they're starting ninth grade, even if it's, on a piece of notebook paper, just keep track. Write down what classes they're taking and, grades, if it's a full credit or a half credit, whatever. There are many templates out there. NCHE has one on our website. If you go to under helps again, the high school section, there is a line that says transcripts. There is a template you can download for free and fill that out. There are services out there that you can pay for. In fact, with my first high school student, after I had made that mistake, of waiting so long, I did use one of those paid services because I just didn't feel like I could do it on my own. And it was great for that situation. And then later with my other high school students, I felt more confident and just used one of the free downloadable templates. But do keep track of it. It really is important. I think I'm trying to think through all of my graduates. They have all needed that transcript, even more times than they've needed the diploma. The transcript has been really important. So make sure that you keep up with that.
Something that you want to create and make copies of and have in very, don't just keep it on your computer, print a couple out. Even my 30-year-old has come up to me now later and been like, I need a transcript. So it
Yeah.
is definitely something you don't just use it once and think you don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
So, along the lines of finishing the school year and possibly having a graduate, what about what we need to do with our homeschool on the DNPE website?
Yeah, absolutely. You want to, when you file your notice of intent and your homeschool is created, you have a portal on the DMPE website, and it is best practices to log in once a year. Make sure that you do it. You can do it more than that, but make sure you do it once a year and just make sure all your information on there is correct. Make sure your email's correct. Make sure your phone number's correct. Make sure your address is correct. That's the law for your address to be correct. And also, it is best to just update your students. We'd never put names. It just has age and gender. So make sure, you adjust the age. And then there is a place on there where you can also put your testing information. So all we do is put the name of our test and the month that we tested. And this is just a best practice, a way to make sure that DMPE has accurate information, and that we have done our part.
Awesome. So, we've done all this stuff and we're closing this school year or, coming to a close.
Okay.
And so, what do you do to get ready for next year?
Ooh, that's such a good question.
Other than just take a big breath.
Yeah, exactly. Take a deep breath. Always, for me personally, I have gone to Thrive by that point. I have chosen curriculum, So I really spend the summer kind of thinking through what my plans, what the next school year is going to be like. And then for my own kids, we try to always keep up with math because I feel like that's one of the skills that just goes away. And then we always try and keep reading during the summer as well. So that's kind of what we do.
Right. Well, and that was going to be one of the things I was going to talk about was, do we have summer learning? Because I think, at least for me, what you said, things just, they fall out. And I
Yeah.
also found that, when I was like, okay, it's summer break, like 2 weeks later, it was just chaos in my house. And so I have found that we need to continue with something. And I try to make it different or lighter or, something different. And some of it just so happens right now, some of the curriculums we use, two of the classes lean towards a really more of a group setting. And so we spend a lot of time working on those and less on some of the other things so that we're still having school. There's still this schedule to how life is going to happen. And they're still learning and keeping this thing pumping up here and active because I think that it does just all of a sudden it gets like atrophy, just like a muscle, and then things
Yeah.
leak right out. And yeah, math, I think, always has to continue because I think there's something about how we use our mind to do math that helps us to keep life moving along really well. So I
Yeah.
think so I am interested and I would like y'all to comment in the comment section. Do you do anything during the summer or do you just like cut it cold turkey and we're going to have this big summer break?
Yeah.
So it'd be interesting to find out what everybody does. So,
Absolutely. Let us know. Yeah.
yeah, we're going to move on to our next section. And I spoke with you, Amanda, in the beginning about when you or your kids started on social media. And so, in our real world readiness segment today, we're going to talk about social media etiquette and just
Mm.
online etiquette and safety in general. Um,
Yeah.
and because I don't know about you, it's been a problem for me. And I think that we've had it fortunate compared to others, but it
Mm.
is a problem. And I think that that idea of when we give technology to our children, and
Yeah.
I think, I've had various ages that my kids got their phone. Um, for the most part, we kind of were like, once they had a job, we weren't ready age wise for them to have a phone yet. But they were gonna be away from us and traveling in their own car, and I felt like they needed to have that phone. And then once they had the phone, everything else just opens up, even though we tried to create rules. So, social media etiquette is a big one for me, when you put stuff out there, who is watching the things that you're putting out there? And, so we have the grandma rule. We're not gonna put anything out there that you wouldn't want your grandmother, your pastor, your teacher, your future boss to see.
Yeah.
And thing is that what's important to you now might be different in the future.
Yes.
So it's just, just really thinking about what you put out there. The other thing is teaching your kids to have empathy. And honestly, I don't want to make it about homeschooling, but I think that what I have seen is there's students that have been homeschooled tend to have more empathy, I think, than those in public school, and I'm not sure what has caused that. I think we just have a different way of
Mm.
learning. But
Yeah.
it's important to teach your kids there's this separation between this screen and real life, that every person out there is a person and they have feelings just like you have feelings. And
Yes.
so teaching our kids to be encouragers and to be kind
Yeah.
and to just know when to not say anything,
Mm.
when to have a thought, but we don't always have to share every thought because we don't know what any person out there is going through in any given day
Right.
or what they've been through. And so that moving away from this cyber bullying thing that I think that we participate in so quickly without even realizing it, just because we share every thought that we have and we're not actually saying it to a person's face. And there's a little difference in there. So, yeah, that's important. And then
Uh-huh.
moving into this protection thing.
Mm.
Have you told your kids, don't share passwords, don't share personal information, don't give away your school name and your address and your telephone number and all these things that I as a parent thought, my kids are smart enough to know this.
Right? Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Yet I have a child that is minus over $1,000 in her bank account right now because she fell prey to stuff on the internet. And so
Yeah.
just really being very careful with how we're communicating with people that we don't know, and knowing your kids, because these these teenage years are difficult and they need attention. And somebody out there that they don't even know is saying, you're beautiful and those are such great words that you used, and just making them feel good about themselves. And so they're real quick to fall into, I'm just going to share everything." And so we have to teach our kids that we can't do that, you know?
Yes.
And then revisiting this thinking before posting thing, the grandma rule, realizing that the internet is permanent and they're going to have a future that may be totally different from what they think they're experiencing right now. And they are going to have job interviews or college things that this social media stuff is available for these people to go out and look. It's a whole new reference that jobs can use to go and look and say, what type of person is this?
Yes.
Everything they see is out there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all out there. And so all of these are things that we as parents can do to guide them. But there's other things that we as parents can do to guide them. And the first thing is to lead by example. Kids see us in all we do. So leading by example
Yeah.
in how we treat social media, which also includes the amount of time that we spend on it, how much time. And 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 I think it's important to some extent to have a discussion with your kids about the use of the phone and your time on it and what it's for. Because for our kids, it's different than it is for us, especially in the things that we're doing. We don't have a phone on the wall anymore. And so we're using this for more than just our free time. And
Right.
being able to show a difference between what that looks like, because we're having to use the phone even when we don't want to, and then that time is adding up, and then when we take time to relax and we're on it more, all they see is that full total picture, and they're like, okay, okay to be on the phone all day long.
Right.
And
Right.
not, it's just not. And so then again, we as parents, and what we can do is, I think it's important that we know what apps are on their phones, that we've explored them together, that we've discussed what each app is meant for and what its capabilities are, looking at privacy settings together so that they know how to do that and that it's important to do that, and to establish the rules in your house of what privacy settings should look like.
Yeah.
Having all of these discussions about the first section of stuff we talked about, addressing that cyberbullying is a thing, not just for them to not do it, but how to not fall into what happens if it's happening to them,
Yeah.
and just setting all those boundaries. And then it leads back into just a regular life discussion about strangers, what the rules are, with our stranger danger in our house, what that looks like. There's just so many things that can be discussed based off of just what's happening in their social media life. So that's real world readiness for today. This social media etiquette.
So important. And for all of us, not just for our kids, really. I feel
Yes,
like
exactly.
all of us adults also need some social media etiquette training our
That's
own
right. That's
selves.
right. Because it is
All
out there and
right.
it happens. And like I said, there's that section where, they're saying positive things to your kids and it makes them feel good, and they need to feel good. And they're probably, so many of them are not getting the attention that they need. And,
Yeah.
I had a daughter that fell prey to that. And then it was like, well, you're beautiful. I should make a painting of you. And, oh, well, you're going to buy supplies for me to make paintings. And she just right into it. And it switched from that into they were sending photos of other people that had been tortured. And this is what I'm going to do to your family if you don't send me more money. So how quickly it went from, you're so
Oh,
beautiful, to you're going to send me money because I'm going to kill your family otherwise. Real things that happen. So we have to be very, very careful.
Absolutely. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. Be vigilant out there, guys, because it's a crazy world and gets crazier all the time.
Yes. Yes, it does.
All right. So that's all we have for today. Yes.
Yes, that is all we have for today. Don't forget to go out and register for Thrive.
Absolutely. We look so forward to seeing you there. Melanie will be there. I will be there the whole weekend. We're so looking forward to meeting you guys. We're going to have a homeschool show set up. We're going to have an area where we will be. You can come and talk to us. We are looking forward to that. And we might just grab one of you or more than one of you for some little interviews here and there. We would love to meet you guys in person. If you enjoy this show, if you've been impacted by it, please come and say hi to us. We would love that. As always, you don't have to wait for Thrive to do that. You could like, you could comment, you could subscribe, you could share with your friends. It really does help. Every single action that you take really does help us get this show out there to more people. And that's our goal. You know, we really just want to encourage, we want to equip, we want to help others out there homeschool and thrive in their homeschool. So please help us out by doing that. And until next time, keep homeschooling with confidence and joy.